That was a big one. Inflation, the war in Russia, algorithm change. This could have some merit to it, because the way Etsy works, it's basically a search engine. It's Google, it's Bing. The way it does its algorithm to pull up and show your shop to someone who's looking for laser cut coasters, that's all driven by the algorithm. And if they do one little change here, it could have effects all the way down the line. So we are all kind of at a mercy of, a high school algebra formula. Yeah. And there's a whole bunch of other comments on there. You need to update your listings because stale listings don't get bumped up as high in the algorithm. You need new photos because old photos don't get bumped up in the algorithm. Just all kinds of things. But for a whole bunch of people to all need to update your photos, I think there's something else going on here. And unfortunately, there's not a real good way of tracking this because all of that information is internal to Etsy and we don't have access to that. So why is this happening? Well, if I knew that, I probably wouldn't be doing a podcast right now. Let's take a look at some of the facts and events. News. Holiday sales came in below industry expectations as shoppers felt pinched by inflation and rising interest rates. Yeah, that could certainly be. But, this is interesting. Sales during November and December grew 5.3% year over year to $639.3 billion. That was below the National Retail Federation's prediction. So one group says that the economy is in the tank because it didn't meet their prediction, yet the overall sales were up. Yeah, you really gotta kind of analyze the data that you're receiving. Further, sales are down in 2023, says the news. But if we dig a little further, we see that January sales were actually up 3.2%, but February sales were down 0.4%. So, yeah, you can cry wolf. I'm not believing it. I don't think it's time to sell the farm just yet. Let's go through a brief history of Etsy. It was started in 2005. A couple of guys, computer geeks, they figured all this out and they built this marketplace for artists and craftspeople. And it did very well. I mean, it wasn't the biggest, baddest thing on the block, but people were selling items and they were making some money. I joined in 2009. People were starting to do Etsy full time. This wasn't just a side gig. They literally quit their day job and started doing Etsy full time. They hired employees. They built companies based on Etsy sales. Some of them gotten pretty big. Now, Etsy, I think, was cruising along pretty good until 2015. And that's when they went public with an initial public offering. Stockholders. And I don't think it's been a real happy ride since then. The initial public offering in 2015 was $16. It very quickly doubled in price, as a lot of IPOs do, and then it slid back down. I think the lowest point, it was around $6 a share, but it steadily started to pick up over the years. And then we had the great unpleasantness. And in 2021, its pandemic price reached $294 a share. Everybody was buying stuff online. People were making face masks like crazy and selling these on Etsy. But that didn't last very long, and by 2022, it had bottomed out to $72 a share. And now in 2023, it's selling at just about $105 per share, which is what they were at in the summer of 2020. So real big spike and a real big drop. So I think this corporation has a lot to do with what's driving Etsy now. It's no longer that nice, warm, cuddly place that artists and craftspeople used to gather and sell their wares. This is big-time corporate stuff. We're talking Amazon, which is not, public, Walmart, type things. This is big time. And so it doesn't have that warm, fuzzy feel anymore. And they have really kind of opened it up to anyone. Kind of the wild, wild west. They allowed vintage sellers to join, and that's a fancy word for antique dealers. And you can find a lot of really cool stuff on there, but it's not exactly what its core value started out as. So it's morphed. There are some crafters who absolutely despise the vintage sailors, and vice versa. If you go onto YouTube, you will find dozens and dozens and hundreds of videos on why you should leave Etsy today. And those have been around for at least a half a dozen years, if not longer. The IPO really pissed off a lot of people. They also had a problem in just last fall, September of 2022, in that they wanted everyone to verify their financial, basically their debit or credit card and their banking information. And they used a company called Plaid to do this. And Plaid is owned by a company, FISCO. The company is asking users to verify their bank details via Plaid, a fintech company that recently settled a privacy class action lawsuit. That rattled a whole bunch of people, myself included, and it didn't go well. Let's just say that. So, what else is going on? What could possibly, be having an effect? Well, news, February 16th, Reuters. Citron Research said Etsy Incorporated had become one of the largest platforms in the world for counterfeit goods, sending shares in the arts and craft marketplace platform down as much as 8.4% on Thursday. Ouch. Citron Research is a firm that basically looks for overvalued, crummy companies that may be doing something nefarious. They report on it, the stock market crashes, then they run the short game on it. I don't understand all of that, but it's all Wall Street stockbroker trading stuff. A whole bunch of other people piled in on this. Every news media had it. I didn't hear it so much in broadcast because I don't listen to that much broadcast media. Print media, really, really piled on. So that's not good. And if you go onto Etsy and look at stuff, there is some real crap on there. I mean, you can buy this from Alibaba, pop it up there, boom, you and 100 other people offering the same thing. Nowhere close to artisanal or handcrafted item. No, it's kind of almost an Amazon type thing. It has changed their marketing profile, let's put it that way. And I can also say, as a user, compared to other platforms, Etsy's not all that careful. There are some platforms that, it's short of dental records and fingerprints, to do anything with them. Then, on March 10th, there was this little thing out in California involving a bank. Silicon Valley Bank, maybe you heard of it. it got taken over by the feds. And at the same time, the New York City Signature Bank also got taken over by the feds. And so that was a whole different thing, but how does that affect Etsy? Well, guess which bank Etsy banks at? That's right, Silicon Valley Bank. And it was really bad for a lot of sellers. Etsy sent out a notice that basically said, things are really weird right now, and if you're on a daily deposit, you're not getting your money right away. And it seemed like people who were on weekly deposits, which I am, they were perfectly fine. Well, they were freaked, but they were still getting they were expecting their deposits. But if you depend on daily deposits, and again, these are some of the bigger players here, their daily deposits, are way up there. They have employees to pay for, taxes, so on and so forth. And this really put a crimp in a lot of these. YouTube, you see all kinds of wailing and gnashing of teeth because it put these people in a real bad spot. And then, of course, there were, fears that this would be, a run on all banks and it would crash down. The feds moved in, the FDIC took over and assured everyone that even though FDIC insurance is only $250,000, $250,000, a lot of depositors had way more money in there. And the feds in their infinite wisdom saw fit to guarantee that and stop a potential total run on the banking system. Now, First Citizens Bank of Raleigh, North Carolina has taken over Silicon Valley Bank, which is in Santa Clara, California. Silicon Valley. Ooh, I bet that hurts some people right there. And the New York Signature Bank has been taken over by New York Community Bank. So everyone's happy, except a lot of Etsy sellers, because their sales are still down. So what else is going on? Well, Etsy has always been a little glitchy. And they've made a very concerted effort to be everything to everyone, offering all kinds of different programs. You could have your own website built using Etsy. You could do your own shipping, through Etsy. I even think they may have set up like a bank type thing through Etsy, which is really weird. They did a wholesale program that totally fell flat on its face. There was another program where you had to verify third-party processors. If you were making a widget, but you were relying on another company to make the widget that goes into the widget, they had to be verified by Etsy, and that entire thing blew up. And it's gone away. They have a whole bunch of people there who don't have enough to do, I think. And so they were creating work, and some of it was good and a lot of it was just really bad. So they have that. The glitch du jour, or the glitch of the week right now, seems to be in their shipping program. I do not use Etsy shipping. I could care less. And like I said, my sales are down. So I'm not involved there. So your sales may be down on Etsy too. Now what? What do you do? Well, my suggestions would be to go on to Etsy and look for any problems. I am no Etsy expert. In fact, I am very guilty of kind of ignoring Etsy and, oh good, I got a sale. Oh good, I got a sale. But to go on there every week or every day, which the experts actually do tell you that you should be doing, nah, that's not me. So go in and look for problems. Verify your accounts. Make sure there's no red flags or anything and you happen to miss the email. Look for products out of stock. I mean, I've read about people who fail to renew their products and their products sell out and that listing disappears because they never renewed it, and they sit around and say, I haven't sold any of the white oak item for a while. Wonder why? It's been out of stock for 6 weeks, you bozo. Now, like I said, I've heard of people who that has happened to. Shipping glitch, you might get caught in that. They also have a program of the 5-star Etsy seller, which, okay, I'll let my geezer out. If you're a 25-year-old millennial and glued to your cell phone, this doesn't affect you. One of the things is on any communications with a potential customer or a customer, you're supposed to respond within 24 hours. I'm sorry, Friday, 5 o'clock, I shut down. I go away for the weekend. And I get dinged on that. Maybe I should care more, but... And just look for other things. Dig into your analytics. Yeah, I know, you'd rather go out and sand something by hand. But dig into your analytics. Look for things that just don't look right. Look for sudden changes. Etsy also combines advertising with your listing, probably, unless you've turned everything off. And that can get screwy and have an effect on your listing. So look at that. And stay in touch with the community. Check out the community bulletin board. There's a wealth of information there. And you get to see who's complaining about what that particular week. There are podcasts on how to run your Etsy shop. There's actually quite a bit on YouTube on how to do that. I'll leave a link in the show notes. So you have to pay attention. Not like some people who may only look at it like once a month. You really need to pay attention to that. What else can you do? Well, this is probably a real good time to evaluate your business operations. I think I mentioned that back in December or January, and you probably didn't do it. This would be a really good time to do that now if you are seeing that Etsy drop. Or, in general, even if you don't have the Etsy store, if you're seeing a drop. Are you beholden to one master? In other words, is 100% of your income coming in through Etsy? Ouch. Boy, if that goes away, that could be really bad. That could be really bad for you. If you depend on Etsy for 100% of that income. I mean, if Etsy's just kind of a side gig for you and you're using Etsy sales to buy more tools, good for you. But if you're depending on this to buy food and pay the mortgage, I would strongly urge you to consider some other paths. So, do you have more than one income stream? I'm dusting off my Amazon handmade account. And wow, when I say dusting off, I mean dusting off. I mean verification processes. You have to have pictures of this. You have to have, almost dental records to reactivate your account because, I did kind of let it go dormant during the great unpleasantness. But I want that back up and running, and if Etsy does do something more stupid, I want another platform out there. Are there other platforms besides Etsy and Amazon? Yeah, there's eBay. Some of the people on the Etsy community board were talking about moving to eBay. You're going to have to evaluate that yourself. eBay is not known for handmade artisan craft items. So it might work for you. It might not. I spent a few minutes looking over eBay, and I think it could work for what I do, but it's going to take work and still evaluating. Let's put it that way. Are there other platforms? Yeah, there are. Don't ask me which ones, because it's been a while since I've researched that, and I'm going to have to jump back into that. So what about your own website? Do you have one? I hope so. Do you sell items on your own website? That would be a really good thing to do, I believe. But just having a website with an online store doesn't mean you're going to be selling stuff on that, because people have to find it. And people have to find your web store using search engine optimization techniques. And if you don't know what that means, you need to dig into that and educate yourself. Or hire someone who's really good at it to do it for you. People are just not automatically going to find it. You could have a billboard on Route 70, Interstate 70, but if you live in Tennessee, you're never going to see that billboard because it's like 150 miles north of you. And unless you travel down Interstate 70, you're never going to see that billboard. And that's kind of the way it is on the internet. Just because you have it there doesn't mean that people are going to see it. So you're going to have to do something to drive traffic to your website. And honestly, this is way harder than opening an Etsy store. That's why Etsy has been so successful, is that it's just easy compared to the alternative. You might even want to consider doing that old, what was it called? It wasn't pay-per-click. Oh, advertising. Yeah, good old-fashioned advertising. If you are in a market that has maybe a good newspaper or even a neighborhood community newspaper, something like that, you could take out an ad. Yeah, they still actually sell those things. And again, you're not trying to advertise on Interstate 70. You're trying to attract customers in your own local community. Some of this can be done on social media. Check that out. That can be a very cost-effective way of getting the word out and getting your name in front of other customers. Magazines. Oh, geez, I know I'm going way old school now. But if you are making a product that you've been selling, Etsy or not, and it's kind of a niche thing, probably not charcuterie boards, but if it's kind of a specialized thing, there's probably a magazine or something for that. Maybe you're a bowyer. You make archery bows. Maybe consider an ad in traditional bow hunting magazine. Kind of really niche down in there, to get your name out in front of your users or potential users. If you make dollhouse furniture, hey, take out an ad in Dollhouse Monthly. I have no idea if that exists. Wholesale. Should you be selling wholesale? It's a very strong possibility. You have to have your pricing right because people aren't going to pay retail for wholesale. They're going to want more than just one. And you really have to get your pricing structure down that you're not giving the stuff away, but on volume, you are making money on these things. And if you listen to episodes 28 and 29, I believe there's information on how to do that. Maybe this is the year of craft shows for you. We talked about that in 25, 26, and 27 episodes. This could be really good. I am a fan of craft shows for especially people just kind of starting out. Oh no, my work's not good enough to go to a craft show. Oh, maybe you're suffering from poser syndrome, which we just did an episode on that. No, really consider craft shows. Craft shows are basically research laboratories that you can make some money at the same time you're doing research because you're talking to people. People are picking up your product. People are looking at it. People are asking questions. Does this come in maple? Oh, geez, I only make this in cherry. Maybe you should be making this in maple. Just all kinds of things. Let your customers tell you what they want. A craft show is a wonderful place to do that. Now, if you've been building based on orders, they order it, you build it, which kind of basically I do, you're going to need to get ahead of the curve. You're going to need some product to take to the craft show. And for some people, that's just, a monumental thing, to do, depending on what product it is that you're making. But you're going to need some inventory. So if this is something that you're interested in, you think might work for you, check out those episodes and get started. Okay, we also need to evaluate your finances. And the little Silicon Valley Bank Etsy hiccup really scared the crap out of a lot of people. And if you've been in business for, 3 weeks and you've made some sales, I hope that you have an account called retained earnings. Some people might call this an emergency fund. Some people might call this a rainy day fund, or the cookie jar account, or, okay, you older folks, egg money. Yeah, remember that? You need to have some money set aside so that if something happens, like, bank failure, they freeze your account, that you have some money not in that particular bank that you can get your hands on and still pay the bills. And the more you depend on a single source of income, the larger that account needs to be. If you have several different income streams, it can probably be a little lower, because if one goes out, well, you have some others that are still bringing in income. This is really, really important. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. I really like contingency plans. I like safe seconds. I like backup things. We were talking about shipping. If you're dependent upon Etsy for shipping and that entire thing goes down, do you have another way to ship products? Shippo. I only use Shippo, but I have other accounts with other shipping aggregators. I think that's the right word. So that if something happens to Shippo, I can switch to Pirate Station, for instance. So don't get yourself in a corner. Your checking account, if you have a debit or credit card and that gets hacked, you can be out of business for a week, 10 days until they get everything sorted out and get you a new card. Suggestion, have 2 checking accounts. And I use debit cards, and I have a debit card associated with each one of those accounts. If one gets hacked, boom, I just switch to the other account. Learned that lesson the hard way many years ago. And if everything craps out, there's always Mrs. Smith up the road who's been bugging you about fixing her grandmother's rocking chair for her. So when that global thing kind of gets disrupted or shuts down, you got to go local. Back during 2008 with the big housing crash, a lot of these big high-end, mansion builders, construction companies, they had nothing. They had nothing in the pipeline. They were done. These guys went bankrupt. Great time to pick up tools at auctions. But some of the smaller, a little more nimble, they simply switched from new construction to remodel because people decided, well, housing market's in the toilet, let's remodel the house, and they kept themselves busy there. Home repair really ticked up during that time, and they were able to change lanes and keep some income coming in. So recommendations for this episode, Kara Bunton on Etsy, link in the show notes. She does the YouTube thing, and it's just kind of a weekly, Etsy update type thing. What are people complaining about this week and how to fix it? She has some really, really good tips on how to run your store, how to manage your store, and how to make sales. Missed jobs. A lady sent me a photo of this big cabinet. It's like 3 tiers and like 4 doors wide, and she wants the center doors taken out and shelves installed and glass put in the panels of the upper doors and the lower doors cleaned up but unchanged other than the hardware, all new hardware. Then she wants it painted. She's actually on the list, which means that someday, if I don't die, I might get around to you. But not something that I'm taking on right away. Big shout out to listeners in Houston, Texas. Quite a few of you. I'm impressed. And also in Rome, Vatican City, Italy. Thank you so much. And I have one listener in Egypt. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Again, I can't drill down in the stats to find out what city you're in Egypt. It just kind of lists Egypt. So there you go. Quick reminder on affiliate links for working at Woodworking Podcast. There's Taylor Tools. Excellent selection of, I think, very reasonably priced, particularly hand tools. And I've got a little dovetail saw from them that it's a little more teeth per inch than I like, but I'll tell you, I'm getting used to it and I'm really starting to like it. And of course, for your phone needs for your business, check out Unitel Voice over IP system. There is a podcast on your cell phone for your business. I don't remember what number that is. And of course, coaching, either formal or informal. The way that works is if you want to sit down for like an hour with me over the phone and pay me a little bit of money and we go over your business. And I do some research ahead of time. I look at your website, your social media presence, and just kind of get a feel for where you're at, what you're doing. And then we talk about concerns that you're having or problems that you may be having, or informal. Just give me a call and say hi. And, what do you think about X? And, I do that. No charge for that. We're probably not going to go into X, Y, and Z, but for something quick, I really appreciate hearing from you. Or, send me an email. I would be happy to answer that. So anyway, thank you so much for your attention. And until next time, happy woodworking.